The Wheeling Plant Commission meeting for Thursday, June 26th, 2014 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Dorband.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
I'm here.
Commissioner Stylen.
Here.
Commissioner Vito is absent with prior notice. Commissioner Zangara.
I'm here.
And Chairman Raffato.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Citizens' concerns and comments at this time. It's anyone that would like to speak on any issue other than those that are on a consent item or items for review can come to the dais right now. No? Okay. Consent items, docket number SCBA 14-18 Chicago Fit Life, 541 Northgate Parkway, appearance approval of a wall sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dorband, second by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorband.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I say yes. Commissioner Stylen.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it's been a while since we have put any signs on our list of nice-looking signs. I think this sign, if it's installed in a backlit manner, I think will look very nice on that building, and would like to recommend that we add it to our potential appearance appreciation list.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. It's a very nice sign. Yes. Thank you. Items for review, docket number 2014-9, Wing Stop, 280 East Dundee Road, special use site plan approval for a sit-down and carry-out restaurant. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2014-9. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Nilax Patel, engineer for Wingstop. Contract tenant is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 19-06 Commercial Districts, Section 19.06.040 B3 General Commercial and Office District, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements and associated sections to establish a sit-down and carry-out restaurant at 280 East Dundee Road in Wheeling. Standards for a special use. The zoning special use as defined in Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning is a use of a parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to circumstances or effects on the surrounding properties that may adversely affect them. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at the public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the Village Code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for a special use meets the standards established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the Village Board. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings?
Before we call the petitioner forward, there were a couple of notes on this particular staff review that I just wanted to go through. The parking for this particular building, in addition to the parking lot that's in front of the building, there's a remote parking lot that during the review of the declaration of covenants associated with this property, staff discovered that this shopping center has access to a remote parking lot. This is the reason that the subject restaurant does not require a parking variation. We have spoken with the landlord on the property. I believe the landlord may be here as well, in addition to the petitioner. And the landlord is in understanding that this remote parking lot exists. And there are some additional concerns related to the application that the landlord has also been made aware of. So with that, I'd like to have the petitioner come forward and present the petition.
The petitioner? Hi there, will you be the only one speaking tonight on this?
Depending on what questions you ask, we do have the operating staff here as well as some of the owners.
Well, who do you think will speak? Okay, if you could please raise your right hand. Also, do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And if you can give your name to our recording secretary and business address, that'd be great. Thank you.
Neelox Patel, 668 Wheeling Road, Wheeling, Illinois.
So the floor is yours, if you can explain.
So Wingstop, I'm a part owner, developer, designer, so I have kind of a lot of hats with this, so I have a lot of insight for you guys. In terms of Wingstop in general is a concept that came into this market about 10 years ago. They're primarily a carry-out business. They cook fresh wings. The product itself takes about 14 minutes to 15 minutes to get. They have about 30 locations in Chicagoland. The franchise is out of Texas itself. Throughout the country, probably over 150 to 200 locations, and it's one of the fastest growing franchises in the nation. We, as a group, this would be our, depending on when it opens, our 8th or 9th store. We have 7 that are currently open. In general, it's a night business for us. Due to the time it takes to make the wings, lunch doesn't do as well as business as well as night does, just because of the duration of getting food. It's not where you can walk in, get it out, and get back to lunch quick. So if it is a lunch, there's a lot of carry-out business for lunch. In general, we only have a limited menu in wings itself. It's wings, fries, and so forth. Nothing that doesn't expand past that as well. So that's pretty much the gist of the project itself. It takes us about 8 weeks to get it built. That's the floor plan itself. You'll see it has 2 bathrooms. Seats about 20 to 25. Usually, if someone comes in and orders and waits for carry-out, it has the capacity to eat or wait for carry-out. It runs about 1,500 square feet in general. Most Wingstops do. And that's pretty much the gist of the project.
Great. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this docket? No? Okay. We'll go to the commissioners. Commissioner Zangaro.
Thank you. I really appreciate it talking earlier that we don't have any good wing places around.
You don't like Joe's?
I have to drive pretty far, and you do have a Wingstop. I've passed it many of times going to a job site and back, but it's always in the wrong hours to actually stop. So I think I'm very interested in you coming into our town. I saw a couple of comments regarding, being a 3rd restaurant in this mall, and I'm actually doing stuff at Gurney Mills in the food court, and I personally like when restaurants are combined with each other. I think it brings business for each of the restaurants. You're helping out them, they're helping out you. Someone drives, hey, I got a choice to make. Other than that, everything looks like it's in place. I really don't have much to say. Everything looks great, and I wish it best of luck, and hopefully you open soon so I can have some things.
They are pretty good, actually.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were a couple of conditions from the health officer for the village, dry storage and stuff like that, and you'll make sure that that's taken care of, correct?
Correct, yeah. I mean, typically, every kind of we've worked in all of them, and Wingstop has been able to, if we need to modify, we definitely will. They operated, this is a typical floor plan. You'll see throughout every Wingstop that they do, they have a model they typically follow. And so dry storage and all that is a concern for everyone, not only health department. But yeah, if there's any modification, we'll definitely make sure we get to them.
Okay, will you be selling any kind of beverages, like soft drinks and stuff like that?
So Wingstop itself does like having a liquor license for that option. It's kind of like Chipotle has the beers and that stuff in the cooler. It's not a big, it's a very small percentage of their sales. Out of our 7 locations, I think 5 of them sell out of the 7. It's not a requirement, but it would be something we apply for. If we don't get it, we don't get it. If we do, we'd like to have it.
So it's your intention to apply for it?
It will be our intention, yes.
Okay. And then you'll be coming back with, if this gets approved, you'll be coming back for a sign, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Good luck. I mean, I think it'll do really well, and I have
Thank
no
you.
further questions.
Commissioner Doorman.
Thank you. I think my question is basically for staff. Do we need to have something in writing from the other places where they would be parking for permission?
Based on what we have read from the Declaration of Covenants, no, it is part of the original approval of the subdivision. What we had some trouble determining prior to this hearing was how formal the management of the additional lot is. So we did speak with the landlord to go through that. The landlord is a relatively new owner of this building, and that issue had not come up yet. So the landlord is aware of that. We do have a condition of approval related to the access to that parking lot that we're suggesting. The parking lot is physically adjacent to the parking lot in front of the store. However, it is not a direct driving route. So what we're suggesting is it would be appropriate to have signage directing customers to the overflow lot, and then have the landlord work with the businesses to park employees in that lot.
And then the other piece of that is also a staff question, because possibly your employees would be parking in this adjacent lot. Do we need to worry about lighting back there?
The parking lot is lit. The connection is lit. There's a driveway in between that's also lit. So in this particular case, I think the layout is already acceptable for that.
Okay, that's my only questions. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. The layout that's on the screen is showing 30 seats. However, in your document that you submitted for the special use, it says the plans for our Wheeling location consist of 48 indoor seats.
Originally, when corporate lays out the store originally, they usually pack in a lot more seats than we usually end up with at the end. They like to try to go with as many as they can, and we found our previous locations, we always downsize from there. So once we talked to Andrew and we got some comments back in the fire department, we reached out to corporate, so it's going to be a lot more easier us to get processed if we actually have less seats and show what we actually need, as opposed to what we try to get for the most. And so that's why originally there was more, but then we ended up agreeing to go with a little less seats.
Okay. Andrew, does that have to be a condition so that it relates to the layout?
We can add a condition to clarify. Both of those items are listed in the motion, both the project description letter
Right.
and this particular seat. So we can just add a condition to clarify that it's the seating as shown on the floor plan.
Okay, and my other question is for you too. You have a condition about the dead or dying ash trees. Is that up to this petitioner? I mean, that's the landlord.
Special use includes site plan review. We did notify the landlord of that particular issue. We just wanted to document it and get a record that there's an expectation of maintenance of the vegetation, and this gave us the opportunity to inform them.
Okay. That's all I had. Good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stalin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to add to Don's question, right? It's one thing to inform the petitioner and the landowner. It's another thing to put the word "shall be removed" in the condition, which means this petitioner is indeed responsible for ensuring that the trees get removed. I'm not necessarily sure that we have ever done anything like that, except when the petitioner is the owner of the facility. So, you know, the trees shall be replaced and the faded awning shall be replaced. You know, if you want to start that wording as part of our policy, it's fine with me, but I'll say people shall start adding sidewalks to their site plan review too. So I really question the wording that we're using. That's point number one. The other question I have is about the cross-access agreement in general, I understand it's a covenant on the property, I think. Andrew, can a covenant be broken by one party or the other for any reason? The reason I ask is, if somebody can break the covenant, then I'd like to add a condition that says the special use ceases with the breakage of that covenant.
As it is, it's a part of the plan unit development. There would be a village review of breaking that covenant. You could certainly, I think there's a couple of different ways to handle it. The special use ceasing to exist may not be necessary. The seating certainly could be cut drastically such that they wouldn't need a parking variation. But as it is, breaking the covenant would involve a village review and approval. It's tied to the approval of this subdivision.
But none of the other parking variations because of cross-access would be negated, right? Necessarily.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm understanding that. There is no variation associated with this. The parking is shared by virtue of the covenant.
Right, I guess, but we're approving a special use based on the fact that that covenant exists. So, anyway, Jim?
Oh, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand where you're going. I don't quite,
Well, if that covenant is broken and off-site parking is no longer allowed, then we've got a big parking problem. And, I agree with what Paul says. It's really nice to have restaurants next to each other because they bring a lot of people that can see the next door neighbors and, oh, this one looks kind of packed. I'll go next door here today and tomorrow they'll come and visit you. So, I think that's a really nice luxury to be able to put as many restaurants in a given area as possible. But if you don't have parking for all the patrons, then the individual business owners are indeed going to suffer because the one that gets all the traffic today, the other people will just drive by because they can't park. So, I'd like to ensure somehow that there's an onus on a lot of people that the covenant doesn't get broken by one side or the other for whatever reason.
but Andrew, didn't you just say that these covenants are reviewed by the village?
The covenant in this case is part of, the declaration of covenants came out of the plat of subdivision with the original plan unit development.
So if that's ever, how would it be broken? It would have to, there would have to be something, would there have to be something that would come to the village that would trigger?
I believe in this case, yes, there would have to be something that came to the village, either amending the subdivision, amending the planning development. I can check the language of the covenant and see, some of these covenants actually do list how they can be amended. I can check the language on this particular one between this review and the board review. But I believe that this would, in one form or another, require an additional village review to separate that parking from this parcel.
And Commissioner Steinle, are you looking for a condition to cover that? I'm not.
Yeah, I just think, it'd be nice to have a condition on all such, I don't want to say variations because it's not a variation, but for all off-site cross-access type parking situations, if they can be easily broken, then I think we ought to have some onus on both sides. If you break it, this side won't be able to use the other side and vice versa.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Conceivably, how many parking spaces could their overflow be that we would have to use this auxiliary parking? I mean, if we're only talking about
You're talking
tenant.
about the code versus the reality of the mix of uses. So in reality, the mix of uses is really going to dictate the demand at any given time. So, for example, the other tenants have peak demands. Panda Express has a high peak demand at lunch. Jimmy John's has a high peak demand at lunch and becomes more of delivery later in the day. The Hair Cuttery has a demand that's sort of spread between lunchtime and afternoon. And this particular business seems to have a demand that's evening primarily. So the overflow parking, given the sum of the uses, in reality, the overflow parking may be mostly for employees. The customers may not end up having to go that direction. So as it is with the spread of the uses that would be there.
Well, if you're saying that the majority of the usage that would be overflow would be employees, is there a way of asking employees to park in that, or setting that up somehow that the employees park in that auxiliary parking?
Sure, and I think that we can add a condition that suggests that the petitioner work with the landlord to direct employees to park in the remote lot.
Does that help, Terry, at all?
Well, I don't know, I just think it's a general policy type questions.
Yeah, I think your idea is good, but I don't think it addresses what Commissioner Steiner was talking about. If the covenant was ever broken, then they couldn't park there, and then you have the issue of where they park.
My question is, how could they break it? Not, would they? Is
Right,
that-
how could they?
Yeah.
And how could they without village review?
And how about a condition that says something to that fact? That if there is something in the covenant that allows it to be broken without village approval, that this special use would be in jeopardy. I mean, that puts an onus on the shopping center owner, everybody, to try and not break the covenant.
Would that work?
The covenant as it is requires, even taking the village out of it, you're talking about 3 different property owners and possibly the residential association having to all sign off on something that's recorded against their properties. I believe as it's written, though, they would also have to amend the subdivision, re-subdivide the property, essentially. The subdivision, the plat that's recorded, references that lot as the parking parcel. So I think they would need to change the plat, re-record the plat through the village, and then amend the associated covenants.
So a condition, like I stated, would never come to fruition, so let's put it in.
Okay, what I'm going to do is take a poll of the commission after you're done with your questions, done with mine. I'll ask poll if we need a covenant, if we need a condition related to the parking covenant.
Okay, thank you. I got one more question.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
You've got room for 30 people, but you say the majority of your businesses carry out. Where do people typically carry their food out to? Do they go home or?
It's usually home. We're more of a, I mean, the concept of Wingstop usually works well in 2-income family areas where people come home, they don't have time to cook a dinner, so they'll call Wingstop. And we've done a little delivery in some rural areas, but in general it's carry out. And they usually take it home for the family. There's family packs and stuff like that. It's really geared for a dinner at home. Is really how it is typically.
I know, one thing we like to have for many of our restaurants is outdoor seating, and outdoor seating in front of your place would be practically impossible, right?
Yeah.
Andrew, is there any open space in that area of the restaurants where outdoor seating that might benefit all the restaurants that exist in that center might be, a common seating area that might be available?
Nothing that comes to mind. As you leave the shopping center to the west, you're immediately abutting another parking lot. As you leave it to the north, there's the trash enclosure followed by the backs of the garages of the residential area. If you go to the east, you hit the driveway that goes back toward the residential area. There is no location that I can think of that immediately lends itself. The walkway in front of the businesses may be wide enough to get a two-seat table, but this is not, it's not really designed to accommodate it very easily.
I think, when we do other centers like this in the future, we really ought to be a little bit more cognizant, not that, I think you're going to have plenty of seating in the inside, but it's always nice to provide seating outside for people that just want to sit out and enjoy. I wish you the best of luck. I think you'll be very successful. I don't think there'll be a parking problem at all with that center. It seems to work itself out, so.
Yeah, I live in Wheeling, and at night, usually that area doesn't have a lot more traffic, so it seems to be, it'll work well, we think, for night business over there.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. I was going to ask about the sit-down also, so that's been answered. Where is the closest Wingstop?
To here would be Des Plaines. I think there's one right by, across the old theater. There's one there. I think that's the closest one I would think to here.
Okay. And again, your peak hours are when?
Peak hours are usually right around 6 to 8. 6 to 11 is usually
Okay.
the peak hours of business. Sundays are really big. Football Sundays get really big for us. Super Bowl, you can't, Super Bowls are really crazy. Sporting events, football's our biggest season. So winter becomes our biggest time, which is opposite of most restaurants, but the football season, that's when you usually have the Super Bowl parties, the parties in the weekends, and we allow to carry out menus for that, orders for that.
Yeah, it's, as Commissioner Zangaro was saying, it's unique. There's not a specific wing place that's, every restaurant has wings, but not a menu
right.
of wings. That's great. Okay, thank you. So I'm looking for a consensus, or I'm looking for yes or no. Do we need to add a condition for in regard to the parking covenant and possibly that being broken? So a yes or no. Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
I would say no, too, because do we have it for the other restaurants that are there?
We did not.
Okay, then no.
Lisa, no, we did not. No.
Did not come up. The other restaurants
Did
did
not.
not crack the threshold for possibly requiring a variation
Exactly.
without it.
Yeah. Commissioner Dorban?
Well, I guess I don't know if I want it to be a condition, but I certainly want staff to look further into it. So I really don't know how to answer your question.
Could that be something that could be workshop, Mr. Chairman?
I just think it should be something that staff needs to look at and make sure that we're okay.
I do, if you finish the poll, I have a language.
Commissioner Zangaro?
I would say no.
Commissioner Stammen?
I would probably say no, too.
All right, so that's a good point. But now to Commissioner Dorban's point about something that we could have on our agenda.
One possible resolution for this would be, and I have just drafted a quick condition that would, we could easily drop it between now and the board review if
Okay.
it turns out it's unnecessary. But the language that I was drafting here was that the parking requirement for the business shall be recalculated and seating reduced if needed in the event that the covenant with respect to shared parking is modified. So that gives us the opportunity to have some reference to it and then check between now and the board review to see if it's even needed.
Commissioner Stalin?
I think we ought to have an understanding of covenants first before we make any.
Before we make that, so I would drop that. Drop that, Commissioner Zangaro?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm ready for a motion, so could you
Yeah, I can read the conditions.
read the conditions?
Sure. From the staff, from
They're
the,
falling down, right?
from the staff report, number one, that the health officer's comments listed below shall be addressed at the time of billing permit. Those conditions are the Village of Wheeling dry storage requirement equal to 25% of combined food preparation and warewashing areas, an exterior grease basin, a separate receptacle for grease, which is a grease dumpster, possibly requiring the dumpster enclosure to be expanded. Condition number 2, the petitioner work with the property owner to install signs directing patrons to the overflow parking area north of 10 North Milwaukee Avenue, which is the Walgreens building. Number 3, that the petitioner work with the landlord to encourage employees to utilize the remote lot. Number 4, I rephrased 2 conditions into 1 here, that the petitioner work with the landlord to replace the faded awnings and dead trees within a year of occupancy, bringing the language down from shall. Number 5, that the number 5, maximum number of seats shall be 30 plus the waiting area as shown on the floor plan.
Great, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Stylin, second by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Stylin?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband?
Yes?
Commissioner Johnson is yes. Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato.
Yes.
6 yes, 1 absent.
You'll have something to sign?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
When is the?
When do you think you'll be open?
We're hoping to get in for permit in the next 2 weeks. So depending how fast you give me an approval. It takes about, definitely before football season. So hopefully early September would probably be our goal.
We had, the Plan Commission in this case is a recommending body, so you'll have at least 2 weeks. The village board meeting on this is likely to be July 7th.
July 7th, okay.
They make the final vote, which is the ordinance approving the special use. This body's recommended approval of that ordinance, and that will be in front of the board most likely July 7th.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good luck.
Their letter.
When you come back for your sign, bring some takeout menus. Oh, hey, yeah.
That's what I thought he was going to say. What did he say? Bring some.
I tuned it out.
That's a lie. Do we have to close that?
I believe we did.
Motion to close?
Need to close.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I checked it off prematurely.
You did. Really? Wow. We could have signed it right at the bottom.
That's weird. Yeah, could have deleted a couple of.
I have my signature forever.
You can contact the office about the date. The July 7th meeting is fairly full. I penciled you in for it just in case. So just give us a call, we'll double check and make sure. Okay.
Calling docket number 2014-10, CrossFit Breakout, 466 Deans Drive, special use site plan approval for a recreation and instruction facility. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2014-10. Cindy Stern, owner of CrossFit Breakout, tenant, is seeking special use site plan approval as required under Chapter 1907 Industrial Districts, Section 19.07.030, I-2 Limited Industrial District, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulations, and Chapter 19-12 Site Plan Approval Requirements, and associated sections to establish a recreation and instruction facility at 466 Deans Drive, Wheeling, Illinois.
Mr. James?
Just a couple of brief staff notes. The petitioner's business has been located in the subject location below the threshold of the special use requirement of the municipal code for roughly, I want to say, 7 months now. So the request is to expand above the special use threshold to allow this business to have additional clients within the existing space. And with that, I'd like to open the floor to the petitioner.
Please come up.
Hi.
Will you be the only one speaking tonight?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
And would you give your name and business address to our recording secretary? Great. The floor is yours.
So we
If you could
opened,
lower that microphone just a bit there. Great,
better?
thank you. Just so everybody can hear you.
so we opened CrossFit Breakout in December of 2000, I'm very nervous, 2013.
Don't be nervous, we're fine.
Okay, and we are a group exercise facility as well as personal training with a very specific type of exercise called CrossFit. So it is no machines, it's all body work, rigs, barbells, kettlebells, ropes. We put rigs on our walls, and that's the only changes we made. And we don't need to do any further changes, but we put rubber on the floor as well, stations to lift weights. We're doing really well, so we'd like the opportunity to grow beyond where the special limits threshold begins, which limits us to having 12 people in the building at a time, and we'd like to be able to grow our class sizes.
Okay, great. Anything else?
I don't know what, no, I think that's it.
Okay. This is a public hearing.
Okay.
If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this agenda, please come up. No? Okay, great. We will go to the commissioners, and I will start with Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a comment in here about bicycle parking. Do you currently have any bicycle, do any people that come to your facility take bikes that you know of? No?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
We have a lot of space inside, so if someone wanted to ride their bike and bring it in, that would be fine.
Okay. And the only, so the footprint of the building and your operation inside, nothing's changing, it's just you're increasing the activity within
Exactly.
more
The
people
space
coming?
is really large.
Right.
And so we can have more people in there.
Okay. I really don't have anything else, thank you.
Commissioner Dorban?
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Nothing here.
Commissioner Steinman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think your building is uniquely positioned within the complex, let me say. You know, you're right on the end, away from most everything. So I think it will be a good fit. My guess is your patrons will park along probably your side of
Exactly.
the building. Can they access your section through that?
From the front as well as from the side of the building.
Because I notice your office area is by the front and you have to kind of really walk.
Yeah, but they're exercising, so they don't mind.
Okay, but they will be using that middle.
Exactly.
Is it the middle of your area or is?
Yes.
Okay, so they would be using that
They can use-
entranceway
exactly.
there as well. My only concern, Mr. Chairman, would be the lighting. They're, going for 30 people to a relatively dark time at night, and I'm not sure that the lighting may be adequate, especially in the front area where they'd have to walk around to the lobby. It appears that there's a light right over the.
We just added an additional light last week
Okay.
between the side of the building and the front, so now there's one more right in the middle.
All right.
Okay, I just, Andrew, make sure that the lighting in that corner area in general is sufficient to, for nighttime, a lot of people use.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zengar?
Just a general question is,
Sure.
I know with these CrossFits, do they tend to, besides being inside, do they go to the parking lot at all, or is it strictly all inside?
It's mostly inside. We do run around the building when weather permits sometimes,
Okay.
because it's exactly 400 meters, so it works.
All right, I just had a question because I've noticed, I have friends that do it, and
Yes, come do it.
I got a gym membership, I'm okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have nothing else.
So, on that subject of running around the building, do they run on the street?
Through the parking lot,
Okay. So there's other tenants in the building.
correct.
I hope you're a good tenant.
We are very good tenants. We've been there for 7 months, and nobody's had an issue with us, and we haven't heard anything from our landlord, so we've been there, and we get along really well.
Okay. You just want to ensure that, because I know of a place in Buffalo Grove that they don't do CrossFit, and I don't know all those terms. But there were a number of complaints about exercising outside. So, and I don't think we have ordinances around that, except for probably noise or
Nothing.
nuisance.
Nothing particularly specific.
Right.
Other than the impact of a special use.
Right.
Whether or not it's okay to
Is
given location.
there a lot of truck traffic in that area? You know, and I'm personal safety too.
Of course.
So I would just stress to be a good neighbor as you
Absolutely.
continue, as you grow this. So, you know, as you get more participants. So what other types of programs are there? You said CrossFit.
It's strictly CrossFit.
So what
which
are
is
other ones that would compete? I mean, is there another type of program, exercise program that other places have? What's different than yours than?
We're an affiliate of something called CrossFit, so my staff, my head trainers are certified in this particular methodology,
Okay.
so that makes us different.
So what different types of methodologies are there?
Are there in exercise?
Yeah, just.
Well, there's weightlifting with
Okay,
tempo,
so that's
there's
the-
aerobic.
Okay.
Yeah, there's many modems, right?
Okay.
There's Zumba. is
So
out there.
CrossFit is just a methodology
It's a
that's used.
methodology, which is, right.
Okay, good. Well, that's all I had. Mr. Jennings, any?
No, just to Commissioner Stylin's point, we did visit this facility at night and observe the lighting in this area and spoke with the petitioner, who then installed some additional lights. We have since observed it, and it is adequate, and we had no particular issue with it beyond that.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson says yes. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Stylin?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Rafai.
Yes.
6 and 1 absent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You'll have something to sign? And a motion to close?
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Two.
What is the typical age of your patrons? Typical age of your patrons?
Typical is probably mid-20s to 40s.
Wow.
I do this, I'm atypical.
Thank you.
Great. great. Before we get to other business,
Quick note, this, for anyone who may be following this particular hearing at home, we do anticipate a July 7th final review by the village board of this. You can be in touch with our office about the exact date, but at this point, we believe there will be room on the agenda on July 7th to accommodate the vote.
Okay, thank you.
before we get to other business, I've been asked by a commissioner to reconsider the vote on docket number 2013-12B special use site plan approval for a multifamily final PUD. Now, this reconsideration of vote can only be done by a commissioner that voted in the majority. And the vote was 4-2 against, and must be asked for at the meeting immediately following the original vote. Since this occurred on June 12th, this meeting here, June 26th, is the next opportunity. So, Commissioner that asked for that? Commissioner Durbin?
Me?
Yes.
Prior to making my motion for reconsideration, I'd like to explain my rationale for my request. When reviewing the standards for a special use, I believe that the project failed to meet standards 3 and 6. I felt it would not meet standard 6 because of my understanding of the code that the MXT district required the project to be mixed use. As a result, I felt it would not meet standard 3 because it would impede the development of surrounding parcels by forcing them to be commercial. I requested additional information on the relevant sections of the code and comprehensive plan from the staff. And now it is my understanding that the MX district allows flexibility of use in order to focus commercial development in the most appropriate locations. Since the subject parcel is on the perimeter of the town center area, I believe it is appropriate to develop it as a multifamily in order to support the future development of the commercial core of the town center. That is my motion.
So do I hear a motion to reconsider the vote?
Is that
Yes.
Pam?
You made,
Yes.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to reconsider the vote for docket number 2013-12B special use site plan approval of the multifamily final PUD. Mr. Secretary, take a vote.
This is just to open the,
This is to reconsider, if we should reconsider it.
okay. Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, yes. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen?
Sure.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato?
Yes.
Okay, 6 and 1 absent.
So now I'm going to make a motion to approve docket number 2013-12B special use site plan approval for a multifamily PUD.
I'll make a motion.
And I will second.
A motion was made by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson is yes. Commissioner Powers?
No.
Commissioner Stylen?
No.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato?
Yes.
So we now have 4 yes, 2 no, 1 absent.
Do we have to close that?
We did close it, just to be sure. We can do that again at this time.
Okay. Motion to close?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
And just for clarity, that motion is written identically to the one that was voted on June 12th. The same documents are referenced, the same conditions of approval are referenced. No other modifications are made.
Okay, great. Other business, before we get into other business, actually, I'm going to be first. First off, I would like to thank Commissioner Schaaf for his years of service on the Plan Commission. Thank you, sir. And I would like to welcome Commissioner Vito. Unfortunately, he could not be here tonight. He had a previous engagement, but he will be here on July 10th. That is my other business. Mr. Jennings?
Yes, we have what we anticipate to be relatively light agendas on July 10th and July 17th. The staff is preparing 2 to 3 workshop discussions for those nights. We plan to have them available, ready to go, see how those hearings go. If they are in fact short, we do intend to have workshop discussions. They would start with the priority order that we've just discussed in the last few weeks, those being the highest priority items related to the zoning code, the Dundee Road lighting plan, and let me think. So the Dundee Road lighting plan, and then the zoning code items were specifically the building material standards related to the masonry requirement, as well as the lighting standards, taking a look at our minimum standards for lighting, and making sure that we don't have a, well, we now believe we don't have a current ordinance. We just need to look at some model ordinances and put them in front of the commission for discussion. So that is our plan for the next few workshops.
Okay. Commissioner Styland asked a question. When we get to, on the lighting, and I'm sorry, Terry, I did not get back to you, but I wanted to discuss it here. When we get to the type of lighting, and I realize that there's more to lighting, the lighting standards than style. But you thought about the Northwest Municipal Conference, is that what it was? Can we get through them, some of the towns that they think are, some of the better lighting standards that we can even go out and get some pictures of and view them?
There's a couple different ways to do it. The specific to the Northwest Municipal Conference, the planning staff is in contact with the Northwest Municipal Conference staff pretty regularly, so we can sort of informally do that and talk to some of the member communities that way. If you have a particular member community that you have seen a lighting design standard and you want us to send it our way, we can do that as well. The Northwest Municipal Conference will also distribute a survey among its member communities at the request of the municipality. So we can suggest a survey and give them 3 or 4 questions. Do you have a light standard? Can you send it? Attach it to this? How did you develop it? And which, for example, which areas have you selected to apply your lighting standard? What's the trigger for installing, that sort of thing?
I think that would be a good idea. But then if we had those, we can actually go out and look at the use of where they're at.
Sure.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add that the reason for that suggestion was to try and minimize any work effort that might be required by our staff to actually do or coordinate any of that activity. If somebody could provide us with the stuff, I'd be more than happy to go out and take pictures or whatever as we drive, any of us as we drive around
and look at
the area,
I'd just like to have it just simply to see the use, to go into towns to see some of the use of them.
We could even have a field trip and go look at a bunch of
We
them.
could, and as a matter of fact, it's something I was going to bring up anyway, but it's a good idea. And to what Andrew and Brooke have worked on, what I'd like to do is a month before, so for instance, at the July 17th meeting, have our workshops planned for the next month, for August. So we can, it's hard for them to determine now what really is going to be heavy in August or September, but if we give them a month, and then we know what's coming, then we'll know, we can tell us what's in August, and then in August tell us what's in September, so we can do some planning also. Okay, great, good. Thank you, Andrew and Brooke. Other business, anything else?
That is it for me.
Okay, Commissioner Powers.
Just a reminder, I will not be here for the next meeting on the 10th. And I'd also like to thank Commissioner Schaaf for his service on the commission. Norm, it was nice being your neighbor, and the 15 months that I've served on this commission, I've learned a lot from you. Good luck in your future endeavors, and you'll be missed. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Again, thanks to Norm for his service, and I don't think I have anything else.
Commissioner Dorban.
Couple things. Anything at all, have you heard anything about our landscaping ordinance?
I have not heard anything.
Okay, and Mr. Norm, you will be missed, especially with the covered parking.
Commissioner Zangara?
I'm just going to follow up on Commissioner Powers. A couple, maybe a month ago, they are actually taking the trees down in my neighborhood, and I want to recommend that the people doing the work have done a really great job, and just the cleanup alone, they're destroying a lot of trees, but come home and there is no mess. So I really want to thank that.
And that machine can eat a whole tree in about 5
I know.
minutes. It's amazing.
Well, we had that at my office, and our office looks like a wood chipping center now. So really recommend. And also, thanks to Norm, even though I was only here about a year. Wish him the best. That's all.
Commissioner Steinle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, carrying on the tradition of the Plan Commission, I would like to recommend that we retire Norm's nameplate from the commission here and ask that at the next meeting, all the commissioners be prepared to sign it as a form of saying thank you for Norm's service.
Mr. Jennings, could you look into that?
I will look into that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And I just have one thing. Commissioner Powers pointed it out, and I had seen it also, that they replaced the shrubbery at the daycare center on McHenry Avenue. Looks really nice now. Really nice.
Did we get any street trees as part of that process?
I don't, I will have to go back and look. I don't know that we did.
And as a reminder, I will also not be here on July 10th. So Commissioner, wait a second. We need
Alternate.
an alternate secretary for that day. So Commissioner Zangara, will you be here on the 10th?
I believe so, yes.
Great. You will be the secretary.
We got the new guy.
The big shoes.
Right. A motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.